I've come today to the city of Plymouth, and just outside the city is the Efford Cemetery. This is a relatively new cemetery. It was opened in 1907, so just a little more than 100 years old. By no means one of the oldest cemeteries. Inside the gate we notice a number of the graves here are for the Chinese community in Plymouth. If you can hear some machinery noise in the background, this is the people clearing up the leaves with leaf blowers, keeping the cemetery neat and tidy. This is to a gentleman born in Utrecht, Jan Cornelius Andreas van Die, born in Utrecht in 1918 and died here in Plymouth in 1997. Plymouth, being a major naval base, was bombed extensively during World War II, and we're going to find a lot of war casualties buried in this graveyard. Something over 450 known graves of war graves, and there will be civilian graves in addition to that. Just a couple I've come to, not specially selected. This one is to Boy D. Jones. Now, boy, I'm assuming means under 16, but that's a bit of a guess. Yeah, Boy D. Jones, Royal Munster Fusiliers. He died in 1918. Right next to him we have Lance Corporal H.H. Miller, 4th Battalion, the Australian Infantry. 1917, aged 37. And at the bottom the family have added, "Greater love hath no man, that he lay down his life for his country." And next to that, Private M.J. Bouchier, 1st Reserve Battalion, Canadian Infantry, 1918. So they came from all over. We've got the boy who came from Munster, Ireland, we've got Australians, and we've got Canadians. There's another group of the war memorials in this area, and in this group we've got a row of crosses, one behind the other. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 crosses running up towards the Chapel of Rest, and the inscriptions are all of Andros, and of course Andros is a Greek island. The names are clearly of Greek origin. So these are buried amongst the war graves, so presumably they are victims of the war, served in the war. I'm actually seeing 9 of these crosses, one behind the other. This is just one taken at random from those 9. And at the top there are 2 more of Andros. This large one. Here lies the 10 bodies of the crew of the Greek steamer of Andros, torpedoed in the English Channel by a German submarine. So what we're seeing is the 10 crosses of the men that died in that torpedoed ship. And these are less common amongst the war graves. This is a gentleman, I'm assuming a gentleman, from the Chinese Labour Corps. 1917, Chen Chu Chiang. As I'm stood amongst these war graves, I can see that I'm high up here, and we're getting really long distance views from this hill. It's looking out over the Dartmoor Hills. And this is an unusual one. Private H.J. Barson, New Zealand Reinforcement, 1918, age 30. We don't see this very often, 2 on one memorial. But looking at the surname, I'm assuming they were brothers. And they died within a couple of weeks of each other. E.P. Shipley, Military Medal, Lance Corporal, Royal Berkshire Regiment, 1919, age 19. And then Gunner G.S. Shipley, the Royal Garrison Artillery, 1919, age 21. And at the top you can see the emblems of the 2 regiments intertwined. So this has to be 2 brothers who died within a couple of weeks of each other. How on earth did the family handle that? Now moving up the hill to the higher part of the cemetery. This one is in memory of Lillian Gale, beloved wife of Leonard, killed by accident, 1944, age 26. And then Joseph John, and another name beneath that. This is the family grave of the Horswell family, and it's this distinctive Art Deco style we come across quite often in these cemeteries. And this chap was buried in 1937. That was the period of the Art Deco movement. There's an area at the very top of the graveyard where all the graves are the same, with these curbstones around them but no memorial stones. Can't see the connection between them, but there clearly is. Dated sort of early 1920s, most of them. I'm going to head down to the lower slopes of the cemetery now. At the top there are several funeral burial services going on today. They seem to be lining them up, and I need to stay away from those people, so we're going to head down to the lower slopes. Down here we also have groups of war graves, 30 here, and I'm seeing a memorial there which I suspect is a war memorial. We'll have a look at that in a minute. Here's one from a regiment we don't see very often, Private J.S. Blair, British West Indies Regiment, 1919, age 39. Close by are 2 more from the West Indies Regiment. This is Private H. Sullivan, and then to his right, or my right, Private H. Owen, British West Indies Regiment. Well, the memorial is to the civilian deaths in Plymouth, 1,174, and they would have died through the extensive bombing of the city. The actual names on this memorial, on the multiple sides, are for 397 of those casualties who were just buried in a common grave here. This is just one of the panels. And this is another one taken around the other side. 6 Saunders I see at the top left there. Possibly the same family. The house was bombed. I don't know. Sometimes on the newer memorials we get a glimpse of that person's interest. And here we have Rosie Tibbs, wife and mum, and we have an upright piano. That was her interest, apart from her family, playing the piano. Beside the path is just this very simple homemade cross with the letters for Florence hammered onto the cross piece. Florence. This memorial is to a young child aged 3, Barbara Patricia Ude, and the picture on the left is of a young lady in mourning with a bouquet of flowers All over the graveyard we have these warning notices pinned to a number of the stones saying they're unstable, stay away. One back there, two more back there, another one back there. The trouble is the authorities will come back one day and just remove these stones, and yet they're not big stones. If they fell over, well, it's not going to be a major incident, and I felt some of them and I can't move them. I think it's just health and safety gone bananas. And the sad thing is relatives don't come back to the graves because they've moved elsewhere, and the stones will be taken away. This is not a big stone, yet it's got a warning notice on it. But if I reach out and give it a good shake, it's not moving. I don't know why they do it. There's a naturally sort of enclosed area here, possibly a quarry once upon a time, but it's lined with stones all the way around, and the one in the middle tells me that these were removed in 1967 from Milehouse Cemetery and placed here. Presumably that cemetery was being closed, being redeveloped, so these are the stones from Milehouse. Make what you will with this one, Dennis Gordon Chinnock. But the image is of the Great Reaper with his scythe. And there's another group of war graves here, and the inscription seems to imply they died during air raids on the city. This one, sadly, is not even known by his name. A sailor of the 39-45 war from HM Tug Sebivos, 1941. You wonder how they don't know his name, but it may be there were several bodies from that ship washed up and they just couldn't sort out which one was which one. And one here for a woman that died on active service. V. Westcott, Women's Auxiliary Air Force, 1944. A little group of war graves. The majority seem to be from the First World War and for Australians. Private Harold Clifford Flood of Sighet, Tasmania, 40th Battalion of the Australian Imperial Forces, 1916, aged 22. And then underneath we have Corporal Ralph Cecil Flood, killed in action, 1917, aged 22. We're assuming that these are two brothers, two Flood brothers, who died almost exactly a year apart. Next to it is Signaller B.F. Woolcock, 40th Battalion, Australian Imperial Forces, beloved second son of R.N.E. Woolcock of Waratah, Tasmania, born at Waratah, 1895, and died here in Plymouth at Devonport Hospital, 1916. Well, as we expected, this cemetery has a very big number of war graves, 450 from the forces and 1100 from civilians who died in the city. I'm going to leave it at this point. It's certainly worth a visit. Till the next time.